my name is Masood, and today I'm gonna be interviewing Lachlan about we had a SAC in school about risky activities, and he's one of our staff member, which he does mountaineering. What makes you do these things?
Well, I like to mountaineer because it challenges me. I get to push boundaries. So when you're in your life from day to day, sometimes you don't get those opportunities to challenge yourself. But when you go mountaineering, you are out there in the wild without support, doing pretty tough things. And it's a really good way to challenge yourself and to establish a boundary and then push through it. And when you do that, coming back to your life, you can use that knowledge that you've gained, that knowledge that, yeah, I can do hard things, and apply that to what you do. So if you're having a rough day at work, you think to yourself, yeah, this is rough, but I've done harder things. And that's a really good thing to develop.
For how long you've been doing it?
Okay, I started rock climbing outdoors in 2004, and rock climbing outdoors is a great challenge in itself, especially if you have a reluctance of heights. You get to learn your craft as well. So when you're rock climbing, you learn how to lead, you learn how to use protection for your ropes, and if you take a fall, you learn about equipment. And mountaineering led on from rock climbing. So those skills I learned out of Mount Ruckley's, how to abseil, how to climb, where to put my feet, where to put my hands. That was great, and I wanted more. And mountaineering, you add to that the complications of weather. So where I go mountaineering is New Zealand, and being an island country, its weather changes within a day. So you think you've got this weather window, 3 to 4 days of sunshine to climb the peak that you want to, and you might be out climbing, and within 12 hours, clouds come in, it starts to rain, it starts to get windy, and so what you thought was going to happen doesn't, and that's when it gets challenging. And I started mountaineering in 2009. I did a technical mountaineering course around the Mount Cook region, and through that mountaineering course I learned the basics of mountaineering, how to stay out in weather, what equipment you need to use specifically for mountaineering, navigating in ice and snow, crevasse rescue, how to use an E-PIRD when things really go wrong. Really good skills to know.
And good on you, mate. do you really enjoy it?
I love it, I do. But,
why?
getting to the top of the mountain is about 10% of the enjoyment. When you get to the top of the mountain, it's a great feeling. You really are on top of the world.
Because you've just done it.
Yeah. You look down from where you come from, and often it's a kilometre away, vertical, and then there might be an 8 or 10 kilometre walk-in, which can take you 8 to 12 hours to navigate. And you've got your buddy there who's done it with you, and give each other a hug and look out along the vista and see especially in New Zealand.
What have you done?
See what you've done.
Yeah.
And then, so 10% being getting to the top of the mountain. Then the friends you make along the way. So there's guys I've climbed with that I know better than my brothers, because you see them in very trying times. Yeah, when things go wrong, you get to find out what someone's made of. You get to see whether they're going to curl up in a ball and not move, or whether they're going to go, all right, it's gone wrong, now what are we going to do? And it's through those times that you really get to know someone, and you get close to people. And mountaineering is a worldwide activity, so if you go to a mountaineering hut in the middle of nowhere, there could be 15 nationalities there. A lot of Europeans climb, Americans climb, South Americans climb, New Zealanders, Australians. Lots of people do it, and it's great to be mixing in those groups. You get to hear a lot of good stories, and so that's part of it. And then being out in the wilds. When you're out mountaineering, sometimes you're the only person out there. And if it's been snowing and you wake up in your tent from a night bivvy and you look out and it's completely white, there's no footprints, there's no nothing. There's no video games, there's no TV, there's no radio, there's no cars, everything's silent. And it's a
Peaceful.
wonderful, peaceful. It enriches the soul. It's a great experience.
What are the scariest part of mountaineering?
Makes you scared. The thought you're going to die. That's when your mind starts ticking a list of things that are going wrong, and that equals death. And that's when it gets hard. That's when you get scared. So the scariest of thing was a trip I did with two Aussies. We went up the Tasman Glacier. The Tasman Glacier is a flow of ice that's 27 kilometres long from the top to the bottom. And we walked up that, so it was about, we did about 9 k's, it's 6 to 8 hours of walking over boulders and pebbles on ice, and you're very lucky to get out of it without twisting an ankle. It's quite an amazing landscape. And so we got to a mountainside where we wanted to do our pitch. And mountaineering is based on a rating from 1 to 5. 5 being your sort of high altitude oxygen, difficult, Everest kind of stuff, and your 1 being sort of starting out now. And we thought we were doing a 1, and it turns out we picked a different route than a 1. So we'd done about 15 pitches of rope climb, and that'd taken us probably 14 hours. We still had 4 or 5 to go, and the weather changed. And we had to make a decision to continue to the peak and navigate our way down the Route 1 line, or go back the way we come. And the 3 of us decided to go back the way we come, and that's a very difficult thing to do on a mountain, to backtrack where you've come from, especially as the light starts to fade. So the lights.
Why is it hard to come down?
Why is it hard? Because it's easy to go up.
Yeah.
Up.
You just control it. Control yourself and the weather and everything, but you just can't control it when you're going down, because you just might fall down and things like that.
And sometimes you don't have enough equipment. Because when you go down a mountain, you've got to abseil. You've got to abseil off a point. And that point, you hope, is natural. But so a rock or a big tree branch if you're in lower altitudes, or something that can allow you just to use your rope. But if you're abseiling down multiple times and you don't have that natural protection to abseil off, you've got to start using your gear. And you've only got so many slings, you've only got so much tape that you can abseil off. When you start running out of gear, then things get very dangerous. And so as you're abseiling down, you've got to keep in the back of your mind, I've got to maintain as much gear as I can. And usually when you're going up, there's light. But when we started abseiling back down, it got dark, very dark, and it started to rain. And abseiling in the rain on a mountainside is unpleasant, especially when your gloves get wet and cold and you start to go numb. So tying a rope when your hands are numb is very difficult, and it slows you down. So generally when you're mountaineering, you start your ascent, your final pitch, before sunrise, and so you might be awake at 2 or 3 a.m. Usually 2 and you set off at 3. So let's say you're setting off, you've been up 2 a.m. It's now starting to get dark, so it's probably 8 or 9 p.m. So you've been going a long time. You're getting tired, you're getting hungry. So all these factors, these risk factors come in. So your hands are going numb, you're hungry, you're fed up with it, the weather's changing. So all these risk factors come in and you start to tick off in your mind going, right, things are getting dangerous. And so after we abseiled down, we then had to bivvy on the mountainside, because our base camp was down a snow slope that navigating nighttime with certain death. Like it's so dangerous. You take one misstep and you slide straight down, you'll hit yourself in a boulder, and that's it.
That's the end of the game.
Yeah, that's the end of the game, that's it. And you know that in your head. So you had this emergency bivvy, which we hadn't used before. And it's basically a big sheet of plastic that you wrap around yourself. And so here's 3 guys huddled up. We are cuddling each other in the fetal position with this bit of plastic around us, and the rain has now started to come in sideways because the wind's so strong. So there's definitely no sleep. And to try and get through those moments, you might tell some jokes, or you might tell a story, or you might make...
To get rid of the situation.
Yeah, because if you start closing up, and if your buddies start closing up, and you don't talk or you don't move slightly, then things get really bad. That's when hypothermia can set in. That's when dark thoughts, which is a real danger, can set in. So we're all huddled up, just wishing for sunlight. And so we've been up now for 24 hours, and the sun crept over the mountains, and we were soaked through and through, and it's still raining. And New Zealand being a new geological formation, the mountains are constantly changing. The weather comes in and rain happens and you get landslides. So we started to make our descent, and the snow bridge that we'd gone up on had deteriorated. So we had to walk through snow where often your foot would go through, so you go up to your waist, and that gets very tiring. So we go for a long time, we get down to our base camp, and our tent had been ripped apart. The wind had pulled our equipment out of it and just thrown it around the valley. So we just spent a few hours getting our gear together, wrapping up and getting our bags. And further down, mate fell in a river, and the rivers are icy. So he started to get over the cold. Further down the valley, when we got to the ice fall, another buddy twisted his knee and was finding walking very difficult. And at this stage, the mountainside started to rumble down. This was probably when I was most scared, because I've got one friend who's potentially hypothermic, and another friend who potentially can't walk himself out because his knee's twisted. So sitting in that scenario, you got to think to yourself, how do I get out of this? And it starts to weigh in the mind. You start to think, how can I help my friends? And then when it gets bad enough, you think, how can I help myself? And that's a really challenging moment, because you know that your friends are relying on you, but you know that if things get bad enough, you're going to have to get yourself out. There's no point in 3 dying and 1 live. So these thoughts weigh on your mind. At that point, the only thing I could think of was setting up what we could make out of a tent and put our friend in it and set off the EPIRB and hope for rescue. The problem with rescue is it's not 100%, and it takes them a while to get a rescue party together. And if the weather's really crap, which it was, then no helicopters can get in. So setting off the EPIRB isn't a guaranteed rescue. So that was probably when I was most scared mountaineering. That was the most testing time. And so what eventually happened was my mate was warm enough to keep walking, so he picked himself up. He had a moment to himself. I've seen plenty of
hoping, cross fingers for everything up in the mountain.
Yeah. The weather abated a bit, and the friend with the sore knee, we managed to get some of his gear out of his bag into our backpacks, so we carried more of the load. And it's interesting because 2 years later, one of those guys carried my pack when my feet were that this, so I could walk. So it comes back to you. Yeah.
And will you do it again in your life? This is the final question.
I will do it, but I'll approach it differently, because I'm a father now. And risking yourself as a young man is, you die. It's a tragedy, your mum's going to be upset, but you're not leaving behind dependents. You're not leaving behind people that rely on you emotionally and financially. Whereas if I was to go mountaineering now and risk myself and die in the process, then the family I leave behind will be distraught. not have my financial assistance as well that my providers do. So to go mountaineering again, I would, but I'd approach it differently. And it's not going to happen for 5 years until my daughter grows up. I'm happy to take extended time away. Because when you go mountaineering, you're looking at minimum 2 weeks, and preferably 2 to 3 months. Because
will you take your children do these things as well?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah. I'd love to get my daughter on the rock wall and go climbing. She's already climbing over furniture, so it wouldn't take much more to get her onto a bouldering or rock wall. And then take her to the mountains. Oh yeah, definitely.
And she will be tough women as well.
There's plenty of tough women. Yeah. The middle trip where I spent a couple of months in New Zealand, I did some grade 3s, which was very empowering because I got to climb a grade 3. It's like, wow, this is a 3,000 metre peak, and had to ice axe all the way up.
That's good.
Thanks for the interview.
No worries.
I like to move it. I like to move it. I like to move it. You like to move it. I like to move it.